There are lots of people in the Bible who are mentioned only once or twice and then seem to drift off the scene. And one of those drifts off the scene for good reason. Paul is in prison in Rome. And according to the letter to the Colossians chapter 4, verses 14, and again also later in verse 24, a man named Demas is there to minister to Paul. Now Demas we have very little background or information about him, other than that he was an early first century Christian. When I was growing up in Pocomoke, they had a term for people who would go to church for a while and then stop. And that term was they were backslidden. So early on in the time of Paul's imprisonment, Demas is there. He's ministering to Paul, he's helping Paul, he's doing all kinds of things at great risk to himself. Later, Paul will write about Demas these sad words. Demas has fallen in love with the present world and has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Have you ever felt that you were closer to God in the past than you are today? Maybe like Demas, you or I or any one of us has fallen in love with the present world. There's a lots of flashing lights and bells and whistles and things that would attract us, like money and security and power and fame, and maybe even just having a good time. We have to be careful, because the things of this world are temporary, whereas the things of the cross and of our faith are eternal. My hope, my prayer is that Demas came to his senses like the prodigal son and came back to work with Paul, back to faith. But we don't know. So if you see a guy in heaven named Demas, you'll know the rest of the story. But the Bible doesn't tell us. It only tells us that he was engaged with Paul for a while, and then something happened that caused him to fall in love with the world, and he left Paul high and dry while in prison. Demas is only mentioned with those two expressions in the entire New Testament. Are you closer to God today than you were last week? Yesterday? We have to keep our faith alive and vital, and we can't neglect it for one moment, because the world is tempting. And we know what happens to people and to ourselves when we yield to temptation. Pay attention to your faith. Focus on Christ's love for us. May God bless you.